Okay, that question was answered, I mean, a few times, but anyway, Barry, that's the new one that Brandon set up, the new channel, because apparently when we were doing the stuff Monday, Wednesday, Friday that was supposed to be private, sometimes it was not private, and there were lurkers. So to quell the lurking, he created another channel, and that's the one. When we go behind the wall, we nuke all the other ones except that one, and I guess that's the one that people can't pull shenanigans. So, yeah, that's what that is. Okay, I'm gonna keep going through. I'm gonna try to hit the questions as I find them. Bird, you got to read the comments, buddy. We're already past all this. Let's see. Noticing we're making new highs on a lot of digital currency. Some, not new highs on a lot of them. New highs on a few of them. None of the old stuff is at new highs. Like none of it. Matter of fact, not one thing that was not one of the original assets from like 2017, 2018. None of those are at new highs. You're just looking at kind of new stuff, I think. All right. Let's get through these. Let's find some good questions. Snow. Ooh, yuck. I hate the snow. I don't hate it. I just don't like it. Bam, bam, bam. Let's see. Moving on down the list. Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. You still reboot it. Having a few seconds off is not going to kill you. Let's see. All right. Yep. Hello. Yeah, there's not. Most of the stuff is not up. I mean, Ethereum was 4,800. No. Bitcoin was 69,000. No. Cardano was $3. No. I mean, I can go down the list for 100 assets, and they're all no's. So maybe a little bit of recency bias there. Hello. Let's find a video. Medical visit. Ooh, that's weird. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do a quick look at prices, but not too much. We're not going to talk about what people should buy, but we'll at least comment on, what was some inflation data came out, and even though it was lower than December, it's because this is how because people don't know how to fucking read inflation. They read the headline number, and they don't back out government spending. They don't back out owner equivalent rent. They don't back out. The government pays people to dig holes, then pays other people to fill those holes. Zero utility, zero work has been done. So you're always getting a skewed picture. Not you guys here, but in you have to dig into those numbers. It's like if someone's like, you take your car to the shop, what's wrong with it? Some stuff. Okay, do you want to tell me what to fix? Nah, just some stuff. You want me to tell me what stuff, man? Well, Howard, I can only assume it was for your prostate. Let's see. Hey, Nick, I used a strategy to buy other coins not in our portfolio. I did well. That's good. There's a lot of money to be made. Yeah. There's a lot of money. We're not telling anybody to use this portfolio. We're showing you guys how to analyze assets. We're teaching you the skills to manage your own money. And this is just, nobody teaches this stuff. And then once people make a lot of money, they're like, screw everyone else. So they don't teach people stuff. And when people don't know, they teach bad stuff. That's why you see so many dumbasses with their internet courses. These people that they're doing. Listen, if you see a video in someone's car on their phone, they're not a fucking guru. Like, period. So just like these guys come out of nowhere and they're like, I can show you how I make $10,000 a day. Really? Well, then why didn't you spend 1,000 of that 10,000 on a camera? Piece of shit. Instead of shooting an iPhone video, putting it on YouTube and just hammering dummies. And somehow those dudes but they disappear, right? You see them for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, then gone. So anyway, it is what it is. Just be very careful, because financial common sense is both not common and not taught. I took tons of economics courses, and you don't learn anything about real finance. You learn about microeconomic and econometric models that don't work, they don't apply. You don't really learn, like in finance classes, you don't actually learn about managing your own life, like your own money, income, expenses, assets, liabilities, cash flow. You don't learn that stuff. And that's like, for those of you that have kids, that's what you should be doing, is you should be teaching them just the main kind of points about the personal balance sheet. Income, expenses, assets, liabilities. Matter of fact, there's 158 people here. I want to see 158 times income, expenses, assets, liabilities, cash flow. Those 5. Income, expense, asset, liability, cash flow. Everybody here should be able to spit that out. We're going to have a little Q&A. We're going to have a little training today. Let's see what you guys got. I know there's like a 10-second delay, so you have 10 seconds to answer. Or I'm going to, just put reruns of Rick and Morty on forever. No, Steve. Write the words out. Income, expenses. Listen. The order is important. Income, expenses. God, you guys, there you go. Craig, thank you. Dear God. Income, expenses, assets, liabilities, cash flow. Okay? So the first 2 are at the top. You make a box. It's so easy. It's like Kiyosaki, whatever. 101. Income, expenses. Then beneath it, assets, liabilities, and then what's left is your cash flow. Income, expenses, assets, liabilities, cash flow. And why that's important, kind of like that in your mind, is because your income and your expenses, that's the net in, and that's the net in and the demanded out, right? Then your assets and liabilities, most people screw up, like, what is an asset, what's a liability? So like you have a house, like I have a house. Well, it's a liability until I rent it out to Netflix to do a TV show, which I am. Then it maybe becomes an asset. It has to break even and beat inflation. It doesn't do those 2 things, still a liability. Cash sitting on your balance sheet, that's a liability because you're losing money to inflation and debasement effects. So you look at your income and your expenses. I have to pay this, and this is all I got coming in. Then you look at your assets and your liabilities and be honest about which one is which, and see how much of your expenses are going towards managing your liabilities, right? And then what's left is your cash flow. Part of that cash flow is going to be, you do whatever you want with it. You can smoke meth if you want, like my grandma, or you can use it to invest. You should take 10% of your income, 10% of your cash flow. You need to go and like have fun, like do something fun. Don't be miserable, right? But after that 10%, that other 90%, what you do with that is going to determine your outcomes. Okay, we're going to do another one. This is a Charlie Mungerism. Show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcomes. So the way you're going to write it is incomes might also determine incentives determine outcomes. Incentives. It's not rules based. There's some game theoretical math, but incentives determine outcomes. This is now we're getting into our kind of basic game theory assumptions, which we're going to go over in un momentito. We're going to have so much fun today. We're going to be doing Q&As. You guys are going to be brilliant at the basics. I had this VP. He was like a regional. I don't know what he was, but he would always say, "Guys, We're going to be brilliant at the basics of selling. And I hated him so much, but he was right. He himself was not a great salesman, which was funny. He was actually a very poor salesman. Like one day he was like, I'm going to show you guys how it's done. Like whatever boss in the shop or whatever, he shit the bed. He was brilliant at the basics. He just sucked at everything else. I saw that Charles had a video. I didn't watch it. I like Charles, but man, sometimes his videos wear me out. They just wear me out, man. Okay, so we have incentives determine the outcomes. Now, I'm going to tell you SIPG, and you're going to tell me what that means. 169 of you, SIPG. For anybody that doesn't, this is like Digital Investor Game Theory 101. SIPG. Let's see it. Let's see what's going on over here. All right, around 63 cents. Okay, delicious. SIPG. Yes. We have our first aboard. No, Deborah, don't just. Okay, there we go. There we go. Eric, you got to write it out so that I know you guys know it. I mean, I know Eric knows it for many, but whatever. Okay. Yes. So it's strategic. It's the strategic interdependence or interactions, interrelations, even between the players in the game. SIPG. I think interdependency is probably the best way to think about it because there is a dependency. Dwayne, you're right. It is the interactions, but there's kind of an unsaid but obvious interdependency between everyone's actions, especially when you're trying to achieve something like Nash equilibrium. And a Nash equilibrium is a situation where everybody's made the best choice they can make, and nobody else can improve their position by making any other choice over anybody else. So everybody's done their best. And sometimes that's the best bad choice, but it's the best thing they can do. Strategic. So I think interdependencies for me seems better. But yes, that is correct. That is correct. Okay. Now we're going to go back and forth. I got another one for you. All cryptocurrency transactions can be broken down into 3 things. Okay? Choose, send, validate. You choose a block. And when we're talking about block, you should think a chunk of data. It doesn't have to be a block of like crypto transit, whatever. It's a chunk of data. You choose a block of data. You could even say choose the data, send the data, validate the data. So then if you reduce it even lower, you can reduce all of crypto in your mind. This is how you can teach grandma about crypto. Choose, send, validate. So that's what I want to see. Choose, send, validate. Ooh, you nailed it. Howard nailed it. Maybe that video prostate exam was good for you. Maybe it like shook something loose. But yeah. And this is how, whenever you're trying to explain, people are like, oh, crypto. Okay, look, man. You choose a pile of data. You send out that pile of data and you validate. Now, does anybody know at which stage here the consensus mechanism comes in? Where does the consensus, determining consensus? It's almost in the word, isn't it? Who gets it? When you use a consensus mechanism, which of those 3 steps is it? It's the choose part. Tracy technically nailed it first. It's the choose part. You can't validate something. Everybody is participating, but that's not determining consensus. So you have to choose. You have a consensus mechanism, right? How you choose the data, like which data is the actual data. That's where consensus, the first kind of stage of consensus. There's some democracy in the back end of it, but when you choose, like proof of work, proof of stake, proof of liveness, right? So you have to you have to determine the chunk of data, right? In some cases, you're making a chunk of data, depending on, but you have to choose it. And the way you choose it, that's your consensus mechanism. Then you propagate it out, you send it, and then everybody has to validate it. They say, yeah, this is right, this is right. So it's a kind of a secondary consensus, right? But initially, consensus is the determination, the choosing of the data. Okay, fun. All right, let's go to another one. Let's have another brain buster. What are the 5 T's? And here, I'll put this up for the last one. So now, what are the 5 T's? Let's see what you come up with. I think in that one, it's going to be, he would say O. I think that's an O. You say an O at that one. Team timing, technology, tokenomics, Y token. Nailed it. 5 T's, team timing, technology, tokenomics, Y token. Well, use utility and wide scale adoption. That's like the second thing. So the first thing you do, I mean, you probably do it in reverse, don't you? You probably first look at a project. I think you do it twice. First, you say, is this something that could be use utility and wide scale adoption? But you won't know that until you've looked at the team, you looked at the timing of the project, you've looked at the technology, you studied the tokenomics to make sure it's not like completely broken before it starts. And then you ask yourself, why does the token exist? Tell me in your mind, I want everyone to give me, after you've done the 5 T's, I want you to tell me 2 projects. One, I know it's a lot, Lisa. That's why you should use Siri. I want you to tell me one project that has a very clear use utility and wide scale adoption kind of horizon, and one that doesn't. And this is going to be in your opinion. So a project that meets UUW or UUWA, right? Use utility, wide scale adoption, UUWA, and one that doesn't. I mean, the obvious one, there's two super obvious old school. Yeah, you could say Bitcoin or Ethereum. I know Sean and I are for whatever reason are on the same queue today. Oh, Cogito also. Oh, that's a low blow, Cisco. That's a low blow. I think Bitcoin and Rejuve, Bitcoin and Ethereum on the clear use utility wide scale adoption meets, like, checks all the boxes. If we're being really honest. And then some Y tokens. Rejuve and Cogito are gosh, they are unfortunately the most obvious Y tokens. I'll tell you another Y token, Chainlink. Says it right there in there. Render, Tracy. You got that not only backwards, Tracy, you got to swap them around. Hypercycle, Shiba Inu, yeah, God, meme coins. What a weird thing that people. That's just straight gambling. That's just people throwing their money, and it is just legit gambling, which is fine for some people. I guess that's cool. Ethereum and Doge, that's a good one, Barry. That's a good one. Hypercycle does not have wide scale adoption. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think, here's the cool thing about Hypercycle. You don't need it to be widely adopted. We can all be wildly successful and it get in with very minimal adoption. That's one of the things I like about these. There's also 2 phases. So here's the way it works in my mind. There is the obvious kind of compute infrastructure, AI machines talking to each other, the internet of AI, that is Hypercycle, right? That's one. There is the follow-on use cases where once this network is live, other people are going to come in and run a lot of very interesting transactions across hypercycle rails because of the way that little data wrapper of the native token and how elegant that is and how fast it is, how you could send any other token wrapped in the native hypercycle token for like almost free. So that's the ledgerless protocol side of the thing that no one's really talking about, and I think you're not talking about it because people's minds are not there right now. But so that's one of the reasons I like hypercycle is we have two chances to win really big. Anyway, okay. All right, let me get this banner off of here. Okay, we did our 5 T's. Now, I'm going to put up a breakdown of the 5 T's, and I'm just going to read through it just so you guys can kind of further dig. But yeah, typically after you've satisfied the 5 T's, then you say, okay, can this asset achieve use, utility, and wide-scale adoption? Now, another way to look at the 5 T's is like kind of 6. It's not really the T's, but this is just a deeper look. And that is, you look at the cash that the company has. Do they have enough runway to exist? Did they raise enough money? Are they going to have to go hit the bid again? Like, do they have enough money to survive, and for how long? Value. Why do we exist? Why does this company exist? Right? And again, a value determination may be different for different people. You may be involved in a project because you believe it's going to do greater benefit, a benevolent change in humanity, or you're like, I'm going to get rich. Those are both value propositions, right? So you got to, what value is for you, maybe that may be an intangible. Direction, the management team, that gets right back to team, timing, right? Team, the team, the management team at Hypercycle, good. The management team at Solana, sketchy. The management team at Ripple, ugh. Some of them are good. Some of them are just straight up thieves. I mean, just corrupt as F. So, but anyway, okay. Then the price. Is it priced in a value or undervalued position? That's a little bit kind of intangible, ethereal kind of question too. Like, well, where is it priced right for you? Stop calling. Where is it priced right for you? You know? Okay. And then liquidity. Can I get in and out of the position? Are there ways? Are there exchanges? Are there access points? And is there any meat left on the bone? I mean, is there any more money to be made? Now, that kind of harkens back to the value or undervalued, the price question. This is a question that a lot of you ask yourselves and you don't realize you ask yourself when you're like, well, is there still a 10x in it? Does that make sense? And I thought it was funny. I even mentioned this last night. I was telling my buddy, we were having his birthday party at this really cool steakhouse. And I was telling him, yeah, people's expectations of the kind of returns they're going to make are a little bit disproportionate to like how the world works. Like in no universe do you go into an investment and expect 10 times the return. A 10x. No, man. Unless you're a cartel member of some, unless you're selling like weapons grade material, fissionable material, or like super high end cartel product, you ain't getting a 10x. They're not getting a 10x. So when these people are like, oh, my portfolio barely has any 10x potential in it, just listen to what you're saying. You don't have to do a 10x today, this year. I try to go, if I can get a 2 to 3x, I'm like super happy. But as long as I have a pattern for exiting positions, I will protect myself in that I will be taking returns when something moves disproportionately, which it does in crypto. But I'm taking profit on regular kind of intervals, consistent with price movements. So expecting 10x. I had a financial advisor call me. Oh, what are you in? I just want to 10x my portfolio. I was like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Listen to the way you're talking. You would have never gotten hired by whoever was dumb enough to hire you if you really thought that. Like if that's really the way your mind works, you're a clown, right? Like, oh, I'm just going to get 1,000%. Oh, okay, cool. Just get 1,000% for 7 years in a row, and then you'll own all the money in the world. Get the F out of here. That's not how the world works. Yeah, just get on base, man, over and over and over. Okay, Chris, will hypercycle eliminate the need for layer 1 and layer 2? No, you still need blockchains that have immutable like track records and things like that. It may obviate. It may layer 2s would not be super necessary. Then layer 2s may be specific to like businesses, and I don't know. I mean, the reason there are layer 2s is because Ethereum sucks. You don't see a bunch of Cardano layer 2s or Cosmos layer 2s, Algorand layer 2s. Why? Because they do really, really fast, really, really cheap transactions. Because they've already kind of ingratiated all those kind of aspects of lean, elegant data movement without, it's these layer 2s are an Ethereum affliction. And yeah, 10% compounded, man. Listen, Linda. If you can get 10% a year compounded, you are crushing. You realize, like, people sell their soul to the Dark Lord Satan, the government debt market, for like 4-5%. They're like, I'll take it all day long, like whole career out of it. No, Barry, I taught you the exact opposite. It's only about percentages. You're looking for things that you think can do multiples, but that's not how you manage your money. You don't manage your money in multiples. And Lisa, it applies to me. If you get a 10x, I encourage you to take profit, but all of you have to think for yourselves. You don't remember that, Howard, that video? Linda. It was like a little kid. His mom's name was Linda. He's like 4 years old. He's like, Linda, listen to me. Look, Google or go on YouTube and look up, listen to me, Linda. His mom what to do. Anyway, Lisa, these are rules that help you frame your own management style. Everybody here who's managing any amount of money, $2, 22 million bucks, doesn't matter. You are a fund manager. You are your own fund manager. You have to behave like a competent fiduciary. Right? Like, so there are no certainties, there are no guarantees, there's no 100%, there's no do this all the time. I think you should have rules for exiting that protect you from yourself. You're not going to get a 10x in very many assets, but when you do, take 20% off the table as a general rule right then, that second. Okay? And don't punt it right back in when the price goes down, because then you become a gambler again. If it 2x's after that, take 10% every single time. If you do that, even if an asset takes off, like Bitcoin, you're still flipping rich. So you don't miss the top side, but you take profit when it's offered to you. Now, sometimes you're going to put money in play, obviously, and it's just for a week, a month, to take advantage of some near-term event. I did that with Bitcoin. I did that with Ethereum. I have an Ethereum play that I put on, even though I hate Ethereum, but I have an Ethereum play I put on for like early in May. The run up, the hypey, bullshitty run up to the ETF. Oh, by the way, Franklin Templeton just put in their application for an Ethereum ETF. So that's going to be cool. Anyway, there's going to be hype on that. I think that we'll see 3,500, maybe 3,800 on Ethereum. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, that's my guess. So I'm doing a relatively short-term play, and what I'm going to do is scrape all of my original investment back out, and everything else is house money Ethereum, and I'll just let it ride. Because I just think Ethereum is both here to stay and tragically flawed. It's like a Shakespearean protagonist. So anyway, I mean, I can give my ideas. I'm not telling anybody to do anything like. I mean, I'm not giving anyone advice. I'm just telling you what kind of where my head's at. All right. Let's see. We cannot count on 10x. We have to be taking money. Yes. I mean, you go into every investment saying, man, if I hold this for a few years, does it look like it can do a 10x? That's part of your analysis of, is there anything left on the bone, right? Like when you're looking at that, is there meat left on the bone? Well, ideally, that question determines whether it's a short-term play, a trade, or a long-term investment of 12 months or more. I do not think the ETF will get approved. I think that there are more compelling arguments that Ethereum is messy and may have been messy. I mean, look at the Ripple team and how they're trying to throw Ethereum under the bus. Talk about a bunch of pieces of shit. The dudes in Ethereum's argument is, yeah, but them too. Like, God, man, they're such a bunch of babies. Don't be a baby. So let's see. I don't think it'll get approved, but there we go. Let's see. And if the best the token can do is 5x and take some profit off the table, depends on how you. Yeah, exactly. And also, what my idea about the future might be, and yours could be, probably is going to be different. So you've got to do you, and also based on your entry points. I mean, I've been here a long time, man. So I've just been fortunate to be early, 2014. So like my brother was mining in like 2010. So like we've been accidentally here for a long time. It's weird. Only in the crypto space can like 10 years make you a veteran. Let's see. We have a 509K. Oh, 509K with Franklin Templeton for my daughter's college. It will probably just be extra cash. She'll get a free ride due to academic. Oh, that'd be awesome. Well, hopefully you're getting some good, decent return on that. You're beating inflation. Let's see. One of my friends. Yeah, the people that are high on XRP are religious. Keep saying it'll hit 100. That's stupid. Yeah, you can't really make him listen, but I would probably point him in the direction of the market cap and say, well, there's 100 billion tokens. So, if it was $1, it'd be 100 billion market cap. If it was $10, it'd be a trillion market cap. If it was $100, it would be the most expensive company on earth. Come on, bro. Who's going to pour? Where are you going to get the money to make that happen? People are so funny. Like when market cap gets higher, it takes a lot more to move those market caps. The only way that you can move a market cap like that is if only 2 tokens exist and people can trade among themselves those 2 tokens. But there's not really, you could only argue that there's about a 50% constrained supply of XRP just because the company has it all wrapped up in that escrow. Oh, by the way, which they sell a lot each month in order to fund their own operations because they're not a profitable company without it. Such a racket, man. Yeah. And it would be fine if they were building things that anybody was using, but they're not. And the Ripple thing is funny because all the people are like, trust me, the Great Reset. I'm like, you guys go move to Vermont with the preppers. Go move to the state and talk about seceding from the union and all this kind of stuff. Like, come on, man. Like, at a certain point, I'm fatigued from conspiracy. I have conspiracy fatigue. I just can't listen anymore. I own XRP. It's sitting over there. Where did I have it? Maybe I got it at BitTrue. it gets like 1.5% return. That's better than the Ripple the team ever did. I put a proposition a long time ago, like 2-3 years ago. Me and Jungle did that. Ripple the company, they should push it to public version of proof of stake, where instead of having a few companies that are the block producers, like I think 25 or 40 companies, something like that, have it be where the public contributes, and you can actually stake your XRP, and you can process transactions and earn rewards. So you're part of the network and all this. I said that they should turn their escrow over to a third party, like a treasury, have a Ripple repo market where people could lend and borrow and just create a pool, like one giant pool, so that you could create like real-time liquidity instead of all these. Anyway, all that shit fell on deaf ears. They don't care. They ain't trying to do nothing except get rich themselves. If you 5x your portfolio, 2x's. Yeah, that's right. If you do a 5x twice, that's a 10x. The hard way. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, anytime people get religious about the assets, you're just going to get beat up. Okay. Our next question. This one you would never get, so I'm going to do that one. That's just impossible. What is the definition of a cognitive bias? What is the definition of a cognitive bias? Let's see what you got. Remember, these are the speed bumps. These are the deviations. Let's see what you got. While you guys are writing, I'm going to give you a little help. The answer is 2. 2 is always the answer. Cognitive biases. And these are the tendencies. Yes. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a great. Those are both good, actually. The tendencies to think in certain ways, mostly from nature and nurture and our own kind of self-evolution, mostly emotional, that lead us to systematic deviations from a standard of rationality or sound judgment. Essentially, why do we make the decisions that we make? Deviation from sound judgment. Yeah, that's really what you want. Deviations from sound judgment. Well, no, it wouldn't be what's in it for me. Can I do it? Those are two questions that everybody asks. You ask that on kind of a subconscious, quasi-conscious level. It's an autonomous, conscious question. You kind of, any situation you say, can I do it? What's in it for me? Like any situation. Climb up that ladder. Well, can I? Okay. Well, why? Like why? But yeah. And see, the problem with cognitive bias is that people tend to let their cognitive biases overpower their basic decision making, their critical thinking. So now we have to go to we have to say, well, wait a minute. Then what is critical thinking skills? What do we have to combat cognitive bias? Because we have these systematic deviations, these speed bumps, these challenges, these perverted models in our mind. We have critical thinking, analysis, communication, open-mindedness, problem solving, and creativity. And if we don't have the dexterity for at least some of that, we're going to be in trouble, because then we're going to be held emotionally hostage by our emotions. That's always not good. There's nothing that's always anything, except that if you're a cognitively biased person, which we all are, and those biases are allowed to be the dominant force, if they can power through your critical thinking skills, you're in trouble. Okay? We don't want that. So, critical skills of thinking, critical thinking, which is analysis, communication, open-mindedness, problem solving, and creativity, are what combat our cognitive biases. Then, with those out of the way, we can employ game theory. And like we talked about a little while ago, game theory is the study of mathematical models of the strategic interaction or interdependencies between rational decision makers. It has applications in all fields of social science, as well as logic, computer science, evolution, biology. Okay? Game theory is the process of modeling these strategic interactions or interdependencies between two or more players in a situation containing set rules and outcomes. Game theory is used to analyze economic competition, economic phenomena such as bargaining, mechanism design, auctions, voting theory, which we're going to hear a lot about later this year, experimental economics, political economy, behavioral economics. And what is game theory chock full of? Assumptions, from the weak, sloppy ones to the concrete. Assumptions in game theory in economics. There is the assumption of rationality and maximization. These are the only two things that we have some concreteness in our assumptions. Everything else is going to be weaker, and weaker. It is assumed that players within a game are rational and strive to maximize their payoffs in the game. And even irrational people are trying to self-maximize. They're trying to maximize their payoffs. They may behave irrationally because of a whole litany of flawed thinking and sloppy thinking. Jimbo. Yeah, if you believe something without empirical, that's faith. We don't want to be faith-based thinkers. People can have faith in their life, but you have to be honest with yourself about what is and what isn't faith. Let's see. Do you believe that hypercycle married nodes can make enough to leave the owner $1 or $1 per day per node? I think yes. I just don't know. Remember, there's many different levels of compute, different levels of hardware. I think some people are going to be making $1 or more a day, and some people are going to be making 10, 12, 13 cents a day. I think hardware is going to determine a lot of that. Let's see. Okay. Conspiracy bunker bias. Okay. Let's get back to it. Yeah, this is just general thinking today. People need to be generally good thinking. Economic key points to think about. Focus on long run and all the groups involved. Economics can be subjected to vested interests, mostly vested interests. The long run effects are more complicated than short run effects. That makes sense, right? Economics specifically inside of game theory is the study and real quick, we have macro and micro, right? Micro, think of like supply and demand economics, the basics. Macro is these giant influences geographically spread, disparate around the world that may have these overarching themes that influence the microeconomic outcome. So economics is the study of usage of resources under specific constraints. We assume that the subject being studied is rational, game theory, right? Attempting to maximize their outcomes. That's our assumption. And that's a pretty concrete assumption, right? The aim of studying economics is to understand the decision process behind allocating the currently available resources, the needs always unlimited, but resources being limited. Does anybody here remember the economic? Who here has listened to economics in one lesson? I got no clue about Pocket Network. It sounds dumb. When people market their projects with stupid names, you got to wonder about that. Like, how'd that get through? How'd that make it all the way through the key group? I don't know, though. I haven't even looked at it. Could be great. Did you guys, who here's listened to Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt? It's a little dirty and grungy, but man, it's good. You read it. Well played, sir. Well played. Having it on in the background is great. One day I'm going to get AI. I'll have AI read it. Like, we'll go back and forth between me and Brandon's voice reading it. Maybe we'll get the whole script and we'll just input it to play dot. I think it's play.ht, and we'll just have it read the whole thing. Yeah, it's great. All right. We'll do a few questions. I think we've hit the basics today. Everybody's like up to speed. I don't want to get into economic points, this and that. I guess just remember when you are hearing about today's, and again, these inflation data numbers, it's also stupid. But when you're listening to these idiots talk, anybody that's not peeling apart the report, they don't know what they're talking about. And remember that inflation is sustained consumer price increases due to more money, right? And so our final question is, what is the true definition of inflation? The true definition of inflation is, let's hear it if you got it. Smoke them if you got them. See what you guys got. The true definition of inflation, not just number go up. You know what I'm asking for. Blue bar. No. I mean, it is, but no. There's a specific definition that I'm looking for. Oh, Howard crushes. Inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon, and it cannot exist without the monetary component. The Fed, that's right. Then the Fed never prints money. Always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. So, if the truck coming from the farm with eggs crashes, and the price of eggs goes up because of that, is that inflation? The egg truck crashes. Inflation or not inflation? Yes, general increase in prices of goods over time. Yep. No, correct. Right? That's a near-term price shock. Okay? It's a supply shock. A supply shock is not inflation. So when you see, transitory was the correct call after COVID. It's just that transitory doesn't mean 2 or 3 minutes or even 2 or 3 months. If it took 18 months to get to a supply shock from the beginning of COVID, isn't it going to take at least that long to unwind it? It's like an inchworm. Yes, you nailed it. So let's keep, very correct. So let's make sure that when I know a lot of people that they butcher this, and the reason I say this is a distinction with a difference. If you get this wrong, it makes you look at currency differently, right? Now, is there to Greenfield's point? Is there debasement? Yes. Are they printing money out of thin air? Well, printing currency? Yes, absolutely. But that's not what we're seeing. Most of that stuff is kind of stealth. We see it over time. You don't see a big blob unless they start printing so much money that people start to panic. And then you can have near-term panics. Well, that creates supply shocks. But if it's sustained, if it's that always and everywhere monetary phenomenon of sustained consumer price increases due to more currency units, right, making it into supply, then it's a monetary supply shock. The other way, a glut. And if you have a glut of something, it's less valuable. If there's only 10 eggs for the world to share, those eggs are expensive. But if someone figures out a way to engineer these new eggs, and now there's 1 million of them, price is going to come way down. It's not quite so valuable. So anyway, we could get into kind of monetary theory and all that. Maybe Thursday we'll just talk money. But anyway, so as they're going through these numbers today, which again, you got to pull the skirt up, check under the hood. There you go. And Howard said, if new net drops, would I add? Well, I'm not going to answer that because we're public facing, buddy. But I would not be inclined to increase that position. I'll just say that. I would not be inclined, me personally. Okay. Random question. I like random questions. What would happen if the Fed just picked an interest rate and left it? Nothing. The only thing that the Fed does with those, I mean, interest rates don't determine the market. There is so little correlation between what the Fed does and the actual market. There is some psychology, but the actual effects of easing and tightening, there's not a lot of empirical data to support it. I think that $600 billion move Fed funds like 25 basis points or something. It was like, come on. So I don't think anyone would notice. I think you would have the markets doing what they're supposed to. The markets are supposed to clear prices. The markets are supposed to be the mechanism that determines people in the markets by buying or selling based on their beliefs about growth and inflation expectations. That's the market. The Fed's not the market. And the Fed doesn't deal with money. What the Fed does do is puts a lot of businesses in weird, precarious positions, because if you were a business that borrowed a lot of money, a lot of business loans, all this kind of stuff, especially floating rate loans, and you did that in 2021 and 2020 and 2019, 2018, when we were like really low rates, and then the rates go straight up, people that are beholden to the Fed get beat up. Banks that borrowed at zero now owe at 5, 6, 5.5, 6.5. Like, the companies like idiots that don't have any economic experience, that don't know what they're doing, that bought into the bullshit in 2021, that started borrowing and building. Oh, we'll be able to sell this real quick. No, dummy, you're looking at a near-term shock. But they started building. They got floating rate loans. One of the reasons that I did what that's a behind the wall discussion. Behind the wall, I'll tell you why I did something in real estate that I wouldn't have done that worked out really well, because the people on the other side of the fence made some poor calculations in 2021, and they got their ass handed to them, and I took advantage of that. Anyway, another discussion for another day. So let's call it a day. Stay in school, don't do drugs, don't do anything my poor, insolvent, drunk, struggling meth grandmother would not do, which is very little. Who knows if Brandon is wearing sleeves or not? Perhaps we'll never know.